we read the information carefully, we are told that the M is the midpoint of AC. So this point here is halfway between A and C. The vertex, well, that's the top corner of the pyramid, is vertically above M, which means that this angle has to be a right angle. It also means that this point T is dead above the middle of the square. All of the slant edges are 218 meters. So T to C is 218, T to B is 218. I'm going to put 218 here as well. And the question asks me to find MT, which is the height of the pyramid. Okay, so this is the distance that I want from M to T. I can see I'm going to be using a right angle triangle. In fact, it doesn't really matter which one I use, although I'm going to have to use one of the four corners. It's going to be the same either way. But the triangle that I am going to use in order to find TM, the height, is that one. And I know that this angle here is a right angle. So this is the distance that I want. I only know one side of that right angle triangle, the hypotenuse, or 218 meters, but I can see that I should be able to work out the length of AM. Now, it is a bit confusing because you're looking at this and the bottom looks like a parallelogram. In fact, the bottom isn't a parallelogram. The bottom is actually a square. So let's just draw the bottom from above. So there's A, there's B, there's C, and there's D. And you've got this point M, which is slap bang in the middle. And we want to find the distance from A to M. Now, we know that the distance from A to B is, 230. And the distance from C to B is also 230. But if I look at this little triangle here, okay, so I'm just looking at the triangle from above, there's M. This distance from here to here must be half of 230, which is 115. And this distance here must also be 115, so half of 230. And we've got a little right angle triangle. So if we want the distance from A to M, I can use Pythagoras because it says that AM squared must equal 115 squared plus the other 115 squared. Now that comes out as 26,450, which means that the distance from A to M is the square root of 26,450. And I'm actually not going to bother finding that. You'll see why in a minute. Okay, so this distance here is 26,450 square rooted. Okay, so we now want to try and find that length x, which is the height of my pyramid. Okay, I know that this is A, this is M, and that's T. And I know that from A to T, that's my 218 meters. And I know that this is my square root of 26,450 meters. Now, in order to find Tm, I'm going to have to do, so Tm squared by Pythagoras, I know that Tm squared plus this side squared will equal, so Tm squared plus Am squared will equal 218 squared, or in other words, Tm squared is going to equal 218 squared. Take away, well, if you look at this side, it's the square root of 26,450, but it's squared. Now that comes out as, well, 218 squared minus, and you can see that the reason I didn't bother working this out is because if you square the square root of 26,450, you get 26,450. So Tm squared is 218 squared minus 26,450. So Tm squared, if we work out the right hand side there, it comes out as 21,074, which means that Tm is the square root of 21,074, and that comes out as 145.1688 square meters. And I'm going to round that to three significant figures. Well, that means I'm going to chop off after the 145. There's a 1 there, so it stays as 145. So Tm is 145 meters to three significant figures.